Your intuition is your biggest career weapon. But here's a question. Are you using it? If not, you're not alone. Today's guest is here to show us how we can break that cycle and tap into our intuition to thrive, especially in your careers. Hey everyone, welcome back to the No Woman Left Behind podcast. We are here to help you get unstuck and push your career forward with confidence. I'm Rosie Zilinskas, your host, and as always, I'm so glad that you're here hanging out with us today. And we are going to be diving deep into how to stop feeling like you are spinning your wheels and start tapping into your intuition. I know tapping into my intuition is really important, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you today. We're going to be talking about why learning to trust yourself is your career's secret weapon, and how to cut through the noise of the daily grind and what it means to expand your emotional bandwidth. I think that's so critically important these days. You'll leave with tips to calm the chaos in your career and your life, all while bringing more joy and clarity to your workday. Our guest today is Dana Shamas. She is an executive wellness and leadership coach, and she has mastered the art of helping people tune into their intuition to find balance in their hectic lives. So here's a fun fact about Dana. She did not start in the wellness industry. She was actually more in the financial sector. And she knows what it's like to be in that high pressure corporate environment. So today, she helps leaders not only manage their energy, but thrive. And I can't wait for you to hear her wisdom. So stick around because we're about to get into some serious career magic. So let's dive in.
Are you ready to accelerate your career? Whether you're just starting out, making your move up the ladder, or ready to take the fast lane, there's one question you need to ask yourself. Where do I stand? Introducing the Promotion Readiness Quiz. In just a few minutes, discover if you're an emerging leader, a progressive pro, or a career trailblazer. Get tailored tips and strategies to help you grow, elevate your skills, and move forward faster. Take the quiz now and step into the next chapter of your career with confidence. Your career breakthrough starts here. Take the Promotion Readiness Quiz now. Imagine a space where your career aspirations are supported by a community that truly understands your journey. A space designed for women like you, ready to elevate their careers. Our monthly membership includes everything from expert training and monthly workshops to a custom career roadmap. Join a supportive community where group coaching and networking turn your professional goals into achievable milestones. Celebrate your wins with a network of women who are as invested in your success as you are. Unlock the leader within.
All right, Dana, thank you so much for being here on the No Woman Left Behind podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm excited about our conversation. So I'm going to get right into it. As you well know, we talk to women in the corporate space that are feeling stuck in their careers. And I know that the world is in great transition right now. Everything seems that there's like fires all over the world. So talk to me a little bit about how you, with your intuition, I know you are an executive wellness and leadership coach. So what is your perspective of the world right now when it comes to so much change and just everybody seems to be fighting with everybody?
Yes, I guess that does seem very true. I know that's very present. But I will tell you that I am super positive about the change. And I am really excited. I'm particularly excited for women because the systems that essentially are starting to break down, and where we see the fighting is where those old systems of control people are trying to hang on to them, right? And this new energy, this new awareness, these new truths are really coming forward that really support women and the way women work and the energy that women have and the brilliance that women come to the forefront with. So there is a lot of conflict. That is true. There is a lot of change, right? And so that brings opportunity. And And I think for a lot of women, especially in the corporate world, it's hard because those practices and habits that got us to a certain level of success really weren't terribly authentic, but really what needed to happen so that you could succeed and get to a place that you wanted to be. Now you have an opportunity to really transition and change into your authentic leadership style and step forward with your voice and your power and your insight and perspective in a new way. And really, I mean, it's a remembrance of what you've always known. I know there are many women who are listening right now who could point out several situations where they were like, yeah, I knew that was coming. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Or I told them about that and they didn't listen. Or I could see that that situation was not going to go as they thought it was going to go. Right. So it is learning how to now speak up so that that's heard and received and change happens.
Yeah.
And what's super fun for me is I see that with my clients on a really regular basis now. Things that I really didn't see 10 years ago, I see now, right? I see change happening. I see shifts happening. I see opportunities opening up. And and yeah, we are going to go through a period of another 5 to 10 years of struggle, and that kind of like holding on to the old and the new coming up, and everybody has to find their own unique way through that. And so that's really why I focus on having people step into their intuition, because there is no roadmap for this unknown, volatile world that we're currently in. I mean, nobody's seen weather like this in our lifetime.
Yes, exactly. So I'm going to go back to the very beginning of what you just said. Systems are breaking down. And when systems break down, that's when the opportunity comes up. And especially with AI, right? I mean, AI is disrupting the entire world. Interestingly enough, and I just found this out, AI has been around since the 1950s. But it's only since ChatGPT changed the algorithm so that the lay person can actually get in there and start playing around with it that they've disrupted the whole world. But I was really surprised to know. And if I think about it, years back, I mean, I would go on my health apps and I could do chats and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, if I think about it, yes, I can think back to years ago when I could do that. And I never thought about it as a artificial intelligence per se. But again, systems are breaking down. All these different technology systems are being implemented. And now is a time, and like you said, I think you're right as far as the energy. I feel that so many women, so many of us coaches and leaders and influencers, we're all kind of pushing together collectively to make sure that women and minorities, their voice is heard, and it's not just the patriarchy that's making all the decisions for all of us, right? So when it comes to creating your new vision of being, I think that's a good topic for us to delve into, because again, with artificial intelligence, I was just reading some statistics, and 1 in 4 people are using AI for their job search. So if you're a person out there, a woman out there, and you're in job search and you are not actively using AI, you are going to be holding yourself back. So let's talk a little bit about creating that new vision of being and letting go of those fears of the unknown, Dana.
Imagine a space where your career aspirations are supported by a community that truly understands your journey. A space designed for women like you, ready to elevate their careers. Our monthly membership includes everything from expert training and monthly workshops to a custom career roadmap. Join a supportive community where group coaching and networking turn your professional goals into achievable milestones. Celebrate your wins with a network of women who are as invested in your success as you are. Unlock the leader within.
Yes. So that's a big one, letting go of the fears of the unknown. But that really comes with developing a trust of self. So the more that you can tap into your intuition, the more that you can listen to that inner voice and that inner guidance that you have, the easier, and you start to play with it, right? So, most women I know have had experiences of intuition, right? And they often have experiences of not listening to their intuition and being regretful that they didn't, right? And so to build that muscle or build that tool, and really I look at it as a skill set, right? So learning to hear and listen to how your inner voice talks to you, right? So do you feel things? Do you know things? Do you hear things? Do you see things? Like, what is it? What's the way that you receive in information? And then you have to really learn to trust and act on that information. And so the more that you can do that, and the more you build confidence that, like, oh, when I get information in this way, when the information feels like this, I act on it and it's always right. That level of confidence is amazing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, you just never have to doubt it.
Dana, do you think that everybody has that intuition and then they just don't? When we're so busy, we're living unconsciously all day long, right? We're like not paying attention to our emotions, our feelings, our, desires and dreams. And we're like very much in the physical world where you're busy in your day to day. So do you think that everybody can, I know everybody has intuition, but can anybody hone their intuition?
Everyone can hone their intuition. And it's really about developing expanded awareness. So when we go, 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 go all the time, our bandwidth of awareness is very limited. Like, we become siloed or like myopic in our viewpoint because we just got to get this thing done. We just got to get to the next thing, get through the day, right? So we have to block a lot of things out in order to barrel through. And so the process is really softening and paying attention, and the more you start to do that, the more awareness you develop. And I am a huge proponent of working with nature and really softening in moment by moment, right? Like, if you don't have 10 minutes to meditate in the morning or evening or during the day, just a moment, right? Before you get in the car, a moment as you walk out the door, pause and take a breath and notice, how does the wind feel? How does the sun feel? How does the air feel? Is there a flower? Is there a plant? Is there a tree that is particularly vivid, right? Begin to expand that awareness. And the more you can begin to do that, the easier it becomes to hear that inner voice.
Mm. Okay, so how does that help the busy female that is a working mom, or even if they don't have kids, they're working, they're busy. I think more and more employers are asking people to go back into the office at least 1 to 2 days a week. Obviously, the commute, trying to put dinner on the table. If you do have kids, carting kids to all of their millions of activities that kids have nowadays. How does this of becoming aware of your intuition help the woman in the corporate world?
Well, one, it cuts out a lot of noise. So when you trust your intuition, you know what to pay attention to and what not to pay attention to. So when we're in go mode or when we're in do, we just look at the to-do list and just try to get everything on the to-do list done. And that's usually impossible, to be honest.
Yes.
And so if you can work with your intuition and say, what has to get done today, right? Like, what do I have to do? What are the top 3 priorities? And those may not be the top 3 things on your list, right? That may not be the answer. And if you also ask yourself, what can I really just let go of? What isn't mine? What's not really my responsibility? That can take off a chunk of the list as well, right? So now we have like the top things we need to focus on, and we've shortened the list quite a bit. Usually that gives you more time and more space, right? Because then you just have to do the things that are necessary. Listening to your intuition will also help you cut through the chaos. And so, in the world today, as we talk, there's a lot of changes. And even the scenario that you just described, even just the commute to work now can be chaotic, right? So, the more you listen to your intuition, the more you begin to cultivate a life that's more in alignment and less in the chaos. And that means that your energy is calmer, you're less frenetic, you're more focused, you're more clear, you're able to get all those things done that you absolutely need to get done easily, right? Not like stressed and hurried and hustled, right? But like, yeah, cool, we're good. And things flow easier. And that it's not necessarily that it's just a different way to walk through life versus just just focused on like ticking everything off.
Yeah, that sounds to me a lot like bringing the joy. So I'm part of Brendan Bouchard's world, where I'm a certified high performance coach, and we talk about bringing the joy all the time. So as you are working through your day, regardless of what you're doing, just notice little things around you that can bring that joy, whether it's music in your ear pods as you're working, or even as easy as like washing your hands, and instead of like rushing, like really feeling the warm water in your hands, and being grateful that you actually have two hands and two eyes and 2 feet, and things like that. Now, you talked a little bit about power and authenticity. So how does the intuition align with figuring out what your power and authenticity? Because again, if I'm trying to get a promotion or trying to talk to my manager about a new opportunity, I'm not confident, how do I find that power and authenticity within me to go and have those conversations?
While really listening to your intuition is very supportive to that, because when you trust your intuition, your level of confidence is just so high because you know it to be true. Like you're not presenting your idea to get approval from somebody else. You're presenting the idea as truth to be seen, right? And accepted. It's a very different energy to walk into a room saying, hey, I am valuable. I am adding value. This is what you need to be looking at versus, oh, I had this idea and I think you should consider it. I think it's important. It's totally
Mm.
different energy, right? And one is asking for a validation and recognition. The other is you already have your inner validation and recognition.
Yes, I love that. Oh my gosh. So you said trust your truth to be seen. And I think that's huge. I think that's a little light bulb went on for me, because you're right. In years past, I would go and try to prove that my idea is correct when I know it's correct or it's a good one. And now I just have to communicate it with that authenticity and power. So I really, really like that. Okay, so now when we are trying to expand our emotional bandwidth, just to experience more in life, because again, everything that we're doing it so fast and we're not noticing what's happening around me. And so I want to share with you, I went to a TED Talk last year, and the presenter was saying that the reason why time goes by so fast these days for everyone is because we are living unconsciously, meaning that we're in that automatic program. You're not noticing, the sun and the trees and the grass and the flowers. And the presenter was saying that if you want to slow down time, you really need to create new experiences that are different from your day to day. And he actually even went on to say that that's why when we're 8 years old, for example, the year goes so long, because that's when you really you start noticing that you're an individual person and you do a lot of new things. And by doing a lot of new things, time literally elongates for the person. And so So tell me a little bit about, from your perspective, expanding that emotional bandwidth again to experience more of life and not just be like, oh my God, another day.
Yes, that feeling of just another day, right? No one wants that. And what I find with my clients is that that usually happens when we don't take the time to process um, all the energy and emotion that we've experienced. And as we've said already multiple times, life, there's a lot of life happening, right? There's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of change, there's a lot of transition, there's a lot of activity. Everybody's lives are very full. Especially if you have kids, like the number of activities and the demands, it's very high. And so that takes a lot of energy at the end of the day. And you're bombarded with energy every day, bombarded by emotion. And so if all you can do is get through the day, you don't really have space for your system to process that emotion, right? And that energy. And so creating a practice, in stillness is a huge practice that allows your body and your nervous system to reset. But when you're on, kind of the hamster wheel, right, it's hard to do that. It's hard to settle into that place. So finding those practices for you that allow you to soften and settle into the stillness and allow your nervous system to rest allows that processing to happen. With my clients, I usually teach them breath work because that I have found is the fastest way to process energy. 15-minute breath session in the day or the evening usually moves through those big emotions and keeps your emotional bandwidth wide. But, it could be walking, it could be singing, it could be dancing, whatever it is that allows that energy to process and move and for your nervous system to decompress is going to allow that bandwidth to widen, and that allows you to be present. Right? And as you're present, time expands. That's because the present moment, if you look, time is linear, the presence is a point, right? This moment is a point. A point is infinite. I mean, that's just like a mathematical situation. So, if you think about it, if you allow and practice presence, then those moments and those experiences allow you to move into the infinite space, right? And so that is the experience of time expanding. Does that make sense?
Yes, that totally makes sense. I'm thinking of Eckhart Tolle and the power of now. Like same thing. He recommends, sitting, meditating, being still. And so here is probably some people are listening, and I've run into 2 or 3 people lately because I'm doing a lot of meditation lately, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to a meditation retreat in July with Joe Dispenza. So I'm doing their advanced meditation retreat, so I'm excited about that. But as I'm talking to people and sharing with people, people are like, oh my gosh, I can never meditate. I've never, my mind never turns off. I could never do that. I'm like, well, you could if you really wanted to, but you're not prioritizing it. You're not making it, the thing that you want to work on, which is fine. But for those people that think that they could never meditate or meditation's not for them, what would you say to them about that?
So one, I would dispel the myth that meditation is about turning off the mind. Your mind is a thinking, like it's, your muscles' jobs are contracting and releasing. Your mind's job is thinking. That's what it does. We want your mind to think. And those of us who have very sharp minds think all the time. And so that's not the problem. The problem is that we let our mind drive our situations and our belief structures. And so meditation is the practice of training your mind. And most people who are go, 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 think thinkers, they get training. You know what I mean? Like they get how to run a marathon, they get how to learn a new skill, right? And so if you think about the idea of meditation as teaching your mind how to focus on one thing, 9 times out of 10, most people already do that. They just don't consider it meditation. Like if you sew or you knit or you run or you sing, like everybody has a practice that they have that pointed attention and they feel like they get in the zone, right? And so I would tell them that is where you start the practice and enhance that practice of training the mind.
Yeah.
The other thing that I say is most of the time when you have a busy mind and you can't shut it down, you have a lot of unprocessed emotion and energy. The
Oh.
more, yeah, I mean, that's the number one reason why people cannot turn, that is why people can't turn off their
Wait, I'm
mind.
gonna I'm gonna stop you right there and please say that again.
The number one reason why you can't stop your mind or shut down your mind is because you have a lot of unprocessed emotion and energy.
Wow, that is incredible. I've never heard of that, and it makes so much sense. So let's dive into that a little bit more. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So again, it goes back to the emotional bandwidth that when you go, 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 that means that your mind cannot shut down and your system, your energetic system, your physical nervous system has not moved into rest and relax, right? And so if you are not processing your emotions, you have a lot you're thinking about. You can't get present. You're worried about what you said in a meeting yesterday or last week, and you're worried about how people are going to look at you when you walk into work the next day, or what the party coming up is going to be like, right? Like you're always in that place because you have a lot of emotion wrapped around all of those things, a lot of judgment, a lot of belief structures and frameworks that drive all of that judgment. And
Wow.
so that keeps this in that cycle. So if you can start to process your energy on a regular basis, and again, breath work is my number one tool to do that, and you start a practice of reflection, right? And that is why training the mind and meditation is so important, because the ego is sneaky. The
Yes.
ego is tricky, right? And so if you try and hone in on that emotion or that belief structure or framework that is causing you distress, it is a practice to keep getting curious. It's a practice of keep coming back to that. What is that really about? What is that really emotion about? What's underneath that? What's driving that? Why is it such a hook for me? Right. But all of those bits come together. You have to have enough ability to stay with it, stay present, get curious and feel to resolve and understand what is underneath. And so
Wow.
that's, yeah, does that,
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I think that's kind of mind-blowing because I know some people that like they are not able to sleep. They say that they can't, shut their minds off. And I never connected the emotional aspect to it. So that's very interesting. So how do you clear, and I know you said breath work is fantastic, but for someone that maybe is in a position that they can't meditate, and by the way, if you are in the situation where you're really busy and working all the time and doing all the things, and then you don't get good sleep because of all of the stuff that's happening in your brain. It's almost like you're living a second life because you're always thinking, thinking, thinking. So at night you're living this other life, whatever's happening in your brain, and you don't let your body rest. So how do you clear that judgment? How do you clear that charge so that you can get into that present moment?
so I'm going to back up 1 second before I go into that and just say, for people who are really new and they don't have any tools, right? Like you don't have a breathwork practice, it's all new to you. Meditation seems like really unattainable. Yoga class is absolute torture for you, right? Like, I get it. I would turn to technology. So I would turn to brain entrainment meditations, brain entrainment music that actually like physically makes the nervous system turn off. I would consider doing hypnosis, also moves the brain into a different place. I would consider frequency and PMEF devices, also brain entrainment and actually cell entrainment technologies that are frequency based. So all of those use technology and frequency to help your nervous system physically move into a rest relaxed state. So those are like, if the other, like doing it all on your own seems unattainable, I tell people to go to that because people need the rest and relax. And so if that's what you need to do, start doing it, because the more you get your system trained to go there, then it becomes easier to start the other practices on your own or with support.
That makes a
Right?
lot of sense. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so then the question is, how do they unwind it?
Yes. How
Yeah.
do they change? How do they take the charge of the judgment, whether it's their judgment or them worrying about, I can imagine someone in the corporate space worried about what everybody else thinks about them, and then having the charge of the emotions of like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get fired or laid off or whatever, whatever the situation is. How do you deal with that energy that is so draining?
Yeah. So those particular ones, um, with my clients, I actually like walk them through staying with that emotion of what being fired would feel like, right? And where does the fear of being fired, like where does that live in your body? How does that feel? And so it takes the emotion out of the head and brings it into the body. And it's much easier to work with it in the body than staying in the hamster wheel in the head. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And so once they can bring it and notice how their body feels, then they become in the present moment, right? And so in that present moment, you can work with them and they can work with it themselves to really feel what that is. And the more curious, even that is enough to start to quiet the mind, right? The more curious, you're like, where does that, is that fear really real? Probably not,
Mhm.
right? Where does that fear come from? How long has that fear been there? What does it feel like? Does it have a color? Does it have a texture? Does it change? Is there anything underneath the fear? Is there anything next to the fear? Right? Just keep getting curious. And
Mm.
it's amazing what comes forward.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love all that, especially again, recognizing the emotional charge that you might be carrying without even knowing that you're carrying it. And no wonder why people are so exhausted these days, right?
No wonder.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, I want to shift a little bit to hear more about you. How did you become an executive wellness coach? Because obviously you have a lot of knowledge and expertise in this particular area. So tell us about your story. How did you get to where you are today?
It's a very long story and one that I never thought I would end up here. So, after college, I worked in investment banking and international development. I went to business school for social entrepreneurship. I worked with many entrepreneurs in the field of healthy eating and health and wellness. So it has always been a passion of mine, and I've always been a champion for health. But life just took me in a direction where I really had to go back into being in the health and wellness industry full time. And I ended up opening my own boutique yoga studio and wellness center in Houston. And what I found is that most of my clients were professionals. Most of my clients were lawyers, doctors, entrepreneurs, business owners, executives. And so what I discovered is that they came to me for the insight and the guidance that I had and this expertise. And so eventually, and COVID helped me transition fully into really acknowledging that, bringing all of these bits together, that my understanding of business and my background in business paired with this metaphysical understanding of how to manage your energy and how to manage your health and wellness from a holistic perspective paired very well together and provided very special kinds of insights that support where people are right now. Right. I mean, this is when I was in business school, this never was a concept that I thought the world would need. Right. I could have never predicted that. But now I'm like, oh, this is why I've spent years studying intuition. This is why I understand energy so deeply, is because it is what leaders need now. And it is that missing link that they're like, okay, this makes it easier. And we need, the world is transitioning. So having people and that expanded state of awareness that can support that transition is really important.
Wow, that's awesome. It's so interesting. You just said I spent years studying intuition, and I don't know anybody else that has studied intuition for years. And I think that's so interesting because intuition is our guiding light. Intuition is our North Star. And without having a good guiding light or North Star, you may feel lost. And that's why I think a lot of people especially nowadays, feel like they're being pulled in so many different directions because we let the external world manage our emotions, right? Or pull on our emotions. It's like I don't watch the news at all. And people say, well, that's ignorant, whatever. But that's okay, because for me, watching the news, it literally sucks. I literally visualize when I watch the news, and I don't actively watch the news, but for example, sometimes my husband is watching the news in the kitchen and I'm walking in to get my coffee and I'm hearing something negative, and I literally almost like picture my soul being sucked, the life out of my soul because of all the negativity, and I walk out as quickly as I can. I can't handle it. Another example is I used to love the show Criminal Minds. I loved it, loved it, loved it. And then as time kept going on, and that show, I think they're starting a new Criminal Minds evolution, but I couldn't take the evilness that was going on in the show. And I know it's fiction, but it still messes with your mind, so much so that one of the actors, he actually had to leave the show because of his mental health, because it is so, I mean, all the cases they show, they're so evil, and they go deep into the mind of the person that's, committing all the crimes and whatever. And so things like that, I can't surround myself around because it just, again, I feel like it's like sucking the life. So when something big happens, either my husband tells me, or I will get like maybe a notification on my phone, but it's literally like one line and I'll delete it, or my sisters will tell me, or my daughter, things like that. But I try to protect my energy so that it's not being emotionally pulled like a marionette with all the things that are happening in the world. And so I really don't allow that. I protect my energy very, very much. Yeah. So do you have any maybe a final tip that you can leave our listeners with, because we have talked about a lot of amazing information?
I would say the final tip that I have is really plan out downtime for yourself. So I think one of the biggest success, like indicators of success or practices that lead to success for my clients, is that on a 3 to 6 month basis, I make sure that they look at their schedule and they plan downtime in accordance to what is required of them. Like most people know the big events, the big meetings, the big projects that are happening that are going to take a lot of your energy, right? And so plan downtime before that, plan downtime after that, so that you have time to process all of that. And so if the daily thing seems hard to you, then this is a way to strategically look at your schedule and plan an afternoon off, plan a whole day off, right? Do some self-care, book in the massage, book in the vacation. Really make sure that happens in your schedule so that you have processing time.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing here is the processing time, the processing of those emotions, a lot of breath work, being able to let your mind rest for a little bit so that you can feel all of the emotions and start,
Yeah.
getting them all out of your body. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, Dana, this was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so very much. If someone wanted to work with you, how would they find you?
At my website, danashamas.com is probably the easiest way, but I am on Instagram and I am on LinkedIn. Those are the two biggest social media platforms that I look at on a regular basis. You can set up a free call and we can chat about what is going to work for you. I do one-on-one sessions, I do group coaching sessions, and I have a retreat in Costa Rica. So yeah, there are lots of opportunities and lots of different ways to work it into your schedule and budget.
Sounds wonderful. All right, Dana. Well, thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation. I appreciate it.
That was such an insightful conversation with Dana. I am going to quickly break down my top takeaways, and you can let me know what your top takeaways were. First, learning to trust our intuition can really cut through that daily chaos. But more importantly, it can help us prioritize what really matters. Second, Dana's advice on expanding our emotional bandwidth through stillness and awareness is key to managing stress. This is where you don't even have to meditate. You can just sit still and quiet for a few minutes every single day. And finally, the idea of trusting your truth to be seen, walking into a room knowing your value is so powerful. So if you believe that you're going to walk in there confident, then you're likely to walk in there confident. So I cannot emphasize how important it is to feel confident so that others can see you as confident. One of Dana's best tips, she says, plan downtime before and after big events or projects to give yourself space to process the emotions and the energy. It sounds very simple, and it is, but it is really, really impactful. And before you go, please don't forget to take the promotion readiness quiz to see how close you are to landing that next big promotion. And if you're ready to connect with other like-minded women, check out the Unlock the Leader Within membership. Trust me, you won't want to miss out. We have some incredible women in the membership. So the links to both the quiz and the membership, as well as Dana's contact information, are on the episode website. So if you go to Apple Podcast, you can actually click the episode website and you will have all the information right there. So today you are walking away with some practical steps to manage the chaos, tap into your intuition, and build your confidence at work. And that's what we're here to build confidence so that you can continue to advance in your career with intention and confidence. It's all about trusting yourself and making space for what really matters in your life. So thanks for tuning in today, and I hope this was helpful to you. Leave a comment, leave a review, and as always, remember to be brave, be bold, and take action.